Leaders of the G7 countries arriving for their annual summit, a meeting that will now be dominated by conflict and a rising death toll in the Middle East. As he left the White House to head here, President Trump was still talking about a nuclear agreement with Iran.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
With neither Iran or Israel represented at the summit, Trump is the only person who could influence events on the ground. But the other leaders will be concerned about Israeli efforts to get the US to join the war and expand the goal to toppling the Iranian system. A former senior State Department official told me summits of leaders have in the past helped at a time of global crisis, but he's not optimistic this time.
I think there's discomfort all the way around. We're not just talking about the latest conflict being the Israeli-Iranian strikes. We're also talking about the war continuing in Gaza. And so I do think there'll be a lot of discussions. They'll be very timely, but it's hard to see within the contours of this leaders meeting in the G7 how they're going to be able to take decisive action on any of those fronts.
There'll be a range of views here. Most of the G7 nations, while saying they'd like to see a return to diplomacy, have adopted their usual mantra: Israel has the right to defend itself. The one exception is Japan, which strongly condemned Israel's attack on Iran on Friday. In addition to the G7 leaders, there are leaders of another 8 countries who've been invited here. They include South Africa and Brazil, which have both firmly condemned Israel's actions. President Trump's tariffs on countries around the world, including the US's closest allies, have already brought great economic uncertainty this year. Leaders gathering here in the mountains will be concerned that the global economy could be further impacted by a conflict raging in a region that's so important to the world's energy supply. James Bays, Al Jazeera, at the G7 summit in Canada's Rocky Mountains.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.